A warm welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel, guys. Do not forget to subscribe. So today's subject of discussion is, does putting multiple coats of wax, or maybe you could apply this to like a sealant or protection product, anything which claims to add gloss and durability, really, you know, something you put on your paintwork and buff it to a shine. Does adding 2 coats of it improve, or multiple coats, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, how many do you want to go? Do you keep getting more gloss and do you get more protective performance if you keep adding, you know, layer upon layer of this material on your paintwork? Well, the short answer is the gains you get from putting multiple coats on are quite small, in my opinion. It's something I've tested on test panels with gloss meters and poking water at it and looking at how long it lasts and all that sort of stuff. Now, there are some gains. The first thing is, whenever you spread one of these paste waxes, and if you kind of look, you know, right at the edge, I might miss some bits. You know, when you're applying it all over your car and you're going around and doing it quickly, you might miss some bits on your first pass. So when you put a second coat on, you might get the bits that you miss. So you definitely might get better coverage. So there's some gains there. You could obviously mitigate that by just applying your single coat a little bit more carefully. The second thing is really, when you lay down with paste waxes, as we've said before, they're sort of a dissolved carnauba wax resin mixed in with solvents and some other sort of hydrophobic bits and pieces sometimes. When you put that hydrocarbon down on your existing wax layer and you buff it with a wax applicator, the solvents in it will probably soften the base layer that you've put down, depending on how well cured that is, depending on temperature, depending how long the second layer sits on the first layer, depending on how hard you scrub, depending on all sorts of things. But the second layer will, to a certain extent, break down the first layer, soften it a little bit, and you'll be mixing that second layer of like-for-like product in with the first one and buffing. When you buff back to a clean panel, the reality is that 2 coats won't be that much of a thicker layer than 1 coat. It might be slightly thicker, I don't know. It's immeasurable. If you did 3, 4, 5 or 6, say each coat put a micron of material down. If you do 5 coats, you're not going to have 5 microns because you'll get to a tipping point where you're dissolving and softening what's on there and buffing back to kind of that thin sort of, let's say, micron layer, very thin layer over the paintwork. So you're not building up like building a house with bricks. You're not building up a thicker layer. But to a certain extent, that second coat will be thicker than a single coat, but you're not going to be able to measure it. Then we talk about gloss. So really, gloss is provided by the quality of your kind of clear coat and the physical reflection and quality and freshness of that clear coat and how well it's kind of refined. We know that. So if you polished this with a finishing polish, got it to the stage where you were pretty much capped out and you couldn't increase gloss, when you put a wax on it, you're not really going to be able to noticeably increase gloss. What paste waxes are really good on a dark car like this, after you've been washing it for about 6 months, there is some hazing, fine hazing going on that your eye might not even see, a slight deterioration in the quality and bringing the quality back, and you see it after you polish. The wax can fill that up, so after you've waxed a car, it can fill that fine haze and give you that blackness back that we see so many times on the test panel that I demonstrate when I compound it with wool, and then we wax it and it puts a nice dark black layer back on it because it's filling all that fine haze. Well, that goes on even not on a test panel, but even in a car with good paint, there's some microscopic haze that gets filled. So the bad news is that really 1 coat of wax seems to fill that just as well as 2 or 3. So I don't think there's any real beneficial gains to putting on loads of coats of wax to keep filling in imperfections in the paint. Your time's better spent polishing. So, and in terms of durability, because you're not building that brick layer up like we said, really your durability is going to be based on how, if the car's outside, washing it, and you know, the contact wash and the elements falling on the car. To try and put a ballpark figure on it, if you did 2 coats, the practical returns might be about somewhere between a 3 and 5% improvement in durability, you know, and all those sorts of things. And that's a real guess, finger in the wind. If you think that's wrong, let me know. But it's definitely not like 50% increase for every coat you do. It's tiny little things. The main reason I think for putting multiple coats of wax on your car is that you enjoy putting wax down. You enjoy that buff to a shine. You know you get good coverage with 2 coats, and you just enjoy kind of doing it. And this is one of the reasons, as well as discussing it in this video, that I'm going to be putting like another coat, a second coat of wax down on this particular car. So in summary, guys, multiple layers of protection. This rule, and some of what I said, might not apply to something like coatings where they're designed to be layered, and you might get a much more noticeable thick coat of coating and stuff like that with 2 coats. So there's definitely exceptions to this, and have a think about what I've said, and if you could think of any questions or any further exceptions to what I've been talking about, whether you agree or you disagree. But yeah, mainly for me, it's if you want to do it, why not? If you enjoy doing it, why not? It's a good thing for thoroughness. It's not going to do any harm, and it's certainly going to make your car. It's not going to do any harm. Let me put it that way. And you can still see when you go back in. This isn't quite cured enough. It should be cured to a dry cure. But it's that bit where you go in and buff and you get that shine and your paint feels really good. That's the really enjoyable thing about all of this detailing for me, and for having this car in the garage. I really love that part of it. Just that feeling that you know the car's all really shiny, and when you walk in the garage you can kind of see it and appreciate your car. The only problem is when it's like that, you don't want to take it out of the garage, but that's fine because I'm getting the other one dirty at the moment, and this one can stay clean for another week or so, and then I'll switch them round. So there we go, guys. That is the video on layering waxes. I'm going for 2 layers here. Maybe we could do 3, 4 or 5 for fun. Maybe it'll be a good test to just double layer the wing and the door and the wing mirror and see just further down the line if it does make any difference. But really I should be leaving this to cure properly before I do that buff. Yeah, and that makes it a bit easier to buff as well. You get less kind of greasy marks. So yeah, the car's looking fantastic, and I'm going to enjoy laying out this wax. If there is another reason, this is a really stupid reason, it's daft, but I've got so much wax, I want to kind of use some of it up and get through some of these pots and finish them. So I'm really adamant that I'm going to be waxing a lot on this particular car anyway, maybe the other one as well. Yeah, I'll do a waxing video on the other one when it comes in, and we'll get that all waxed up as well. Yeah, so you can also get through your products, which is important, because there's nothing worse really than having these products and then they sit there and you haven't used them for 3 or 4 years because you've got too many, and then you go to use them. And some waxes as well, here's another interesting thing, some waxes do deteriorate. The more simpler waxes, if it's a simple wax, oil and solvent, they tend to last forever as long as you don't lose all that solvent. But when they have hydrophobic material in them, sort of quite often silicon polymers and stuff like that, solvent miscible silicon polymers mixed in, those polymers, as a raw ingredient, do definitely have shelf life, and you know, typically that can be about 2 years. They are fine for longer, but they can deteriorate, and you can find that certain modern waxes aren't quite the same after 3 or 4 years and a few winters and a few summers in your garage and stuff like that. It's one of the reasons I keep them in a cooler. It's off now because it's cold, but I will, in the summer, I'll just turn that cooler on just so that the waxes don't get up to sort of you know, on hot days in the garage, 30, 40 degrees or whatever, and sort of they definitely in the summer can melt, and you see the tops of the waxes go liquefied and stuff, and that's where you lose some of your solvent, and your pot of wax can dry out. Yeah, so there is that argument. So the more complicated the wax, the more things that are in there that are not just simple organic things, you can have expiry issues. So you should try and use these products up as well. There is really there's no real justification for having, I've got like 10 or 11. There's been times where I've had loads, like probably more than 30 or 40 because of the channel, mainly if we're doing wax testing and stuff like that. And it was just pointless. There's enough wax there to, like, you know, you could go down to Gatwick or Heathrow and wax all the planes and still have loads of wax left over. Enough wax there to wax the entire EasyJet fleet and other airlines. So use them, enjoy them. If you want to put 2 or 3 coats on, put 2 or 3 coats on, get them on your car, buff them up, get your paintwork looking glossy. We talked about the fact that bringing gloss up to the maximum is a thing really to do with working on the physical gloss in the clear coat or the paintwork, the surface of the paint, getting that really good. But there is something about a paste wax that improves appearance, and you can see it as well. And you see it on the test panels. It creates that like reflective layer that doesn't seem to perhaps affect the gloss meter readings too much if it was there or not there. But it does create some sort of like reflective layer. And after you've applied it, that reflection it brings out the reflection as you sort of move and change angles, and the panels on the car are curved, and you're seeing the reflections kind of distort on the bent panels and stuff. That's what I think a paste wax does really well, and I don't know what you describe that. People describe it, I think, as the jetting effect of things like moving, and as you're moving around it, the reflections moving. Yes, it does do that a little bit as well, and I think perhaps paste waxes are perhaps the best at doing that. It's a very small thing. It's been described like when you use a sealant, it can look good, but it's a sharper kind of thing. There's less jetting. And I think still to this day, a carnauba wax is one of the best things for giving you that kind of reflective jetting. But as we've talked about, there are disadvantages to the waxes, that they can just be a little bit more work to apply, cure and buff, and make sure you haven't missed any bits, or you've got any greasy bits, or you don't get them all over your trims and all that sort of stuff. But that's all part of the fun of just doing the job properly. It's less difficult to mess up when you're just using a spray wax and you spray it in. But on the flip side, I think it's less noticeable when you use those types of products. These are really, there's always going to be like a place for a really good paste wax. And I'm just enjoying this one at the moment. I'm really determined to use it. I've used it on a few other cars apart from mine, and I'm going to get through it. I will get through it. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments as always. Take care.